The Flower Ornament Scripture, Book 17, The Merit of the Initial Determination for Enlightenment. Then Indra, king of gods, said to the enlightening being Truth Wisdom, Son of Buddha, what is the extent of the merit attained when the enlightening being first determines to become enlightened? Truth Wisdom said, The truth of this is extremely deep, difficult to explain, difficult to know, difficult to discern, difficult to believe, difficult to experience, difficult to practice, difficult to master, difficult to think of, difficult to assess, difficult to approach and enter. Even so, by the power of the Buddha, I will explain for you. O child of Buddha, suppose someone were to provide all comforts for all the beings of incalculable worlds in the eastern direction for a whole eon, and after that teach them to keep the 5 precepts with purity, and were to do the same thing in the southern, western, and northern directions, the 4 intermediate directions, and the zenith and nadir as well. Do you think this person's merit would be much? Indra said, Only a Buddha could know this person's merit. No one else could be able to assess it. Truth Wisdom said, This person's merit, compared to the merit of an enlightening being who has just determined to realize enlightenment, does not amount even to 100th, not even 1,000th, 100,000th, 1,000,000th, 100 millionth, 1 billionth, 100 billionth, 1 trillionth, 100 trillionth, a quadrillionth, a quintillionth. That merit does not amount to the smallest imaginable fraction of the merit of determination for enlightenment. Setting aside that example for the moment, suppose someone provided all the beings of 10 infinities of worlds with medicines for 100 eons, and then taught them to practice the path of 10 virtues, serving them thus for 1,000 eons, then teaching them to dwell in the 4 meditations for 100,000 eons, then teaching them to dwell in the 4 immeasurable states of mind for 100 million eons, then teaching them to dwell in the 4 formless concentrations for 10 billion eons, then teaching them to dwell in the state of stream enterer for 100 billion eons, then teaching them to dwell in the state of once returner for 10 trillion eons, then teaching them to dwell in the state of non-returner for a quadrillion eons, then teaching them to dwell in sainthood for a quintillion eons, then teaching them to dwell in the path of the self-enlightened. Do you think this person's merit would be great? The King of Gods said, Only a Buddha could know the merit of such a person. Truth Wisdom said, This person's merit, compared to the merit of an enlightening being who has just determined to realize enlightenment, does not amount to 100th part, not even 1,000th, 100,000th, or even the smallest imaginable fraction thereof. Why? Because when the Buddhas first set their minds on enlightenment, they do not do so just to provide the beings of innumerable worlds in all directions with all comforts for 100 eons, or 100,000 quadrillion eons. They do not set their minds on enlightenment just to teach that many beings to cultivate morality and goodness, just to teach them to abide in the 4 meditations, 4 immeasurable minds, and 4 formless concentrations, just to teach them to attain the states of stream enterer, once returner, non-returner, saint, and independently enlightened one. Rather, they set their minds on enlightenment to cause the lineage of the enlightened ones not to die out, to pervade all worlds, to liberate the sentient beings of all worlds, to know the formation and disintegration of all worlds, to know the defilement and purity of beings in all worlds, to know the inherent purity of all worlds, to know the inclinations, afflictions, and mental habits of all sentient beings, to know where all sentient beings die and are born, to know expedient means appropriate to the faculties of all sentient beings, to know the mentalities of all sentient beings, to know all sentient beings' knowledge of past, present, and future, and to know all realms of Buddhas are equal. Again, setting this example aside for the moment, suppose someone could, in a single instant, pass incalculably many worlds to the east, and did this instant after instant for an incalculable eon. No one could determine a limit to those worlds. Then suppose there were another person who could pass in a single instant all the worlds that the former person passed in an incalculable eon, and also went on thus for an incalculable eon. Then suppose there were yet another person, and another, up to 10, each of whom could pass in an instant all the worlds that the preceding one passed in an incalculable eon, and went on thus for an incalculable eon. Then suppose there were also such people in all the other 9 directions. Thus, in the 10 directions, there would be 100 people, each successively passing in each and every instant of an eon, as many worlds as the preceding passed in an eon. The limit of these worlds might be known, but the limit of the roots of goodness in the enlightening being's initial determination on enlightenment cannot be known. Why? Because enlightening beings do not set their minds on enlightenment just to go and gain knowledge of a limited number of worlds. They set their minds on enlightenment to know all worlds in the 10 directions. That is to say, they want to know subtle worlds are gross worlds are subtle worlds, upward-facing worlds are downward-facing worlds, downward-facing worlds are upward-facing worlds, small worlds are large worlds are small worlds, wide worlds are narrow worlds are wide worlds, one world is unspeakably many worlds are one world enters unspeakably many worlds enter one world, defiled worlds are pure worlds are defiled worlds. They want to know the differentiations of all worlds in a single hair, and the unity of a single hair in all worlds. They want to know the production of all worlds in a single world. They want to know the insubstantiality of all worlds. They want to be able to know all vast worlds in a single moment of thought, without any hindrance. This is why they set their minds on unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment. Again, setting this example aside, suppose there is someone who can, in a single thought, know the number of eons of becoming and decay of innumerable worlds in the eastern direction, and does this for an incalculable eon. No one can determine the bounds of those numbers of eons. Then suppose there is a second person who can know in a single thought all the numbers of eons known by the first person over an incalculable eon. Again, continue this up to 10 persons, then extend it to all 10 directions. The limit of the number of eons of becoming and decay of all these incalculable worlds of the 10 directions may be known, but the limit of the virtues of the enlightening being setting the mind on perfect enlightenment cannot be known. Why? Because enlightening beings do not set the mind on unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment just to know the number of eons of becoming and decay of a certain limited number of worlds. It is to completely know the eons of becoming and decay of all worlds that they set their minds on unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment. That is, to know that long eons and short eons are equal, short eons and long eons are equal, one eon is equal to countless eons are equal to one eon. Eons with Buddhas are equal to eons without Buddhas. Eons without Buddhas are equal to eons with Buddhas. in an eon with one Buddha, there are unspeakably many Buddhas. In an eon with unspeakably many Buddhas, there is one Buddha. Finite eons are equal to infinite eons. Infinite eons are equal to finite eons. Eons that end are equal to endless eons. Endless eons are equal to eons that end. Unspeakably many eons are equal to one instant. One instant is equal to unspeakably many eons. All eons enter the non-eon. The non-eon enters all eons. They want to know instantly the eons of becoming and decay of all worlds of the entire past, present, and future. That is why they set their minds on unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment. This is called the initial determinations, adornment of great vows, the spiritual knowledge of all eons. Again, setting aside this example, suppose someone could, in the time of a single instant, know the various different understandings of all the sentient beings in incalculably many worlds in the eastern direction, and went on like this, instant after instant, for a whole incalculable eon. Now suppose a second person can know in a single instant all the differences in sentient beings' understandings known by the first person in an incalculable eon, and also went on like this, knowing more and more each instant, for an incalculable eon. Now apply this pattern successively up to the 10th person, and also to the other 9 directions. The limit of the various different understandings of these sentient beings in the 10 directions may be known, but the limit of the virtues of the enlightening being's first determination on enlightenment cannot be known by anyone. Why? Because enlightening beings do not set their minds on unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment just to know the understandings of a particular limited number of sentient beings. They set their minds on unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment to know the various different understandings of all sentient beings in all worlds. That is, they want to know different understandings are boundless, and that one sentient being's understanding is equal to countless sentient beings' understandings. They want to attain the light of knowledge of liberative techniques appropriate to unspeakably many different understandings. They want to know all the individual different understandings in the ocean of sentient beings. They want to know all the infinite various understandings, good and bad, of past, present, and future. They want to know all understandings which resemble each other and those which don't. They want to know all understandings are one understanding. One understanding is all understandings. They want to attain the enlightened one's power of understanding. They want to know the differences between understanding that can be surpassed and understanding that is unexcelled, understanding which has remainder, and understanding without remainder, equal understandings and unequal understandings. They want to know the differences between dependent and independent understanding, common understanding and unique understanding, bounded understanding and boundless understanding, differentiated understanding and undifferentiated understanding, good understanding and bad understanding, mundane understanding and transmundane understanding. They want to attain the unhindered knowledge of liberation of the enlightened in respect to all subtle understanding, great understanding, infinite understanding, and understanding of the true state. They want to know, by means of infinite appropriate means, the pure understandings and defiled understandings, broad understandings and summary understandings, fine understandings and coarse understandings, of each and every sentient being in all realms of sentient beings in the 10 directions. They want to know deeply secret understandings, expedient understandings, discriminating understandings, spontaneous understandings, understandings that arise according to causes, understandings that arise according to conditions, the networks of all understandings. To know these, they set their minds on unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment. Again, setting aside this example, suppose there is someone who can, in one instant, know the differences in faculties of all sentient beings in countless worlds in the eastern direction, and continues in this way for an incalculable eon. Then suppose there is a second person who could know in one instant all the differences in faculties known by the first person, in each instant of an incalculable eon. Extend this to the 10th person, and apply it also to the other 9 directions. The limit of the various differences in faculties of the sentient beings of the worlds of the 10 directions might be known, but no one can know the limit of the virtues of the enlightening being's initial determination for unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment. Why? Because enlightening beings do not set their minds on unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment just to know the faculties of sentient beings in a given, limited number of worlds. It is to know all the various differences in faculties of all beings in all worlds, wanting to know the network of all faculties, that they set their minds on unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment. Again, setting this example aside, suppose there is someone who can, in a single instant, know the inclinations of all the sentient beings in countless worlds in the eastern direction, thus knowing more and more instant after instant for an incalculable eon. Extend this, as before, to 10 people, and to all 10 directions. The limit of the inclinations of these sentient beings of the 10 directions might be known, but a limit to the virtues of the enlightening being's first determination for unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment cannot be known by anyone. Why? Because the enlightening being's determination for enlightenment is not limited to just the purpose of knowing the inclinations of a limited number of sentient beings. It is to know all the inclinations of all beings in all worlds, wanting to know the network of all inclinations, that they set their minds on unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment. Again, setting this example aside, suppose there is someone who can, in a single instant, know the techniques of all the sentient beings in countless lands in the eastern direction, and extend this example as before to 10 people and to all 10 directions. The extent of the various techniques of these sentient beings of the 10 directions may be known, but the extent of the virtues of the enlightening being's initial determination for enlightenment cannot be known by anyone. Why? Because enlightening beings do not set their minds on unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment just to know the various techniques of beings of a limited number of worlds. It is to know all the techniques of all beings of all worlds, wanting to know the network of all techniques, that they set their minds on unexcelled, complete enlightenment. Again, setting this example aside, suppose there is someone who can, in a single instant, know the various different mentalities of sentient beings in countless worlds in the eastern direction, and extend this example, as before, to 10 people and to all 10 directions. The bounds of the various different mentalities of the sentient beings in all these worlds of the 10 directions may be known, but the bounds of the virtues of the enlightening being's first determination for unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment cannot be known to anyone. Why? because enlightening beings do not set their minds on unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment just to know the mentalities of a limited number of sentient beings. It is to know the various mentalities of the boundless sentient beings of the whole realm of space of the cosmos, wanting to completely know the network of all minds, that they set their minds on unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment. Again, setting this example aside, suppose there is someone who can, in a single instant, know the various different actions of the sentient beings in countless worlds in the eastern direction. As before, extend this to the 10th person and to the 10 directions. The bounds of the various different actions of these sentient beings of the 10 directions may be known, but the bounds of the virtues of the enlightening being's initial determination for unexcelled enlightenment cannot be known. Why? Because enlightening beings do not set their minds on unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment only to know the actions of the sentient beings of a limited number of places. They want to know the actions of all sentient beings of past, present, and future, and want to know the network of all actions. This is why they set their minds on unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment. Again, leaving this example aside, suppose there is someone who can, in one instant, know the various afflictions of the sentient beings of countless worlds in the eastern direction, and thus knows more and more, instant by instant, for an entire incalculable eon. No one could know the bounds of the various differences of these afflictions. Now suppose there is a second person who can, in one instant, know all the differences in afflictions of sentient beings known by the first person in an incalculable eon, and also went on like this, knowing more and more, instant by instant, for an incalculable eon. Again, extend this to the 10th person and the 10 directions. The bounds of the differences of afflictions of these sentient beings of the 10 directions may be known, but the limits of the virtues of the enlightening being's initial determination on enlightenment cannot be known. Why? Because enlightening beings do not set their minds on unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment just to know the afflictions of sentient beings in a limited number of worlds. They set their minds on unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment to know all the differences in afflictions of all beings in all worlds. In other words, they want to thoroughly know light afflictions and heavy afflictions, afflictions of sleep and afflictions of waking, the various differences in the innumerable afflictions of each and every sentient being, and their various musings and ruminations. To clear away all their confusions and defilements, they want to thoroughly know all afflictions based on ignorance and afflictions connected with affection, to cut off all bonds of afflictions in all realms of being. They want to thoroughly know all afflictions of greed, all afflictions of hatred, all afflictions of folly, and all afflictions of greed, hatred, and folly in equal measure, to sever the root of all afflictions. They want to thoroughly know all afflictions of ego, afflictions of possessions, and afflictions of conceit, to be totally aware of all afflictions. They want to thoroughly know all basic and concomitant afflictions arising from misconceptions, and the 62 views arising from the idea of a real body existing. To vanquish all afflictions, they want to know thoroughly the afflictions of mental shrouds and hindrances, to develop a heart of great compassion to rescue and protect, to sunder the web of all afflictions, and cause the nature of omniscience to be utterly pure. This is why they set their minds on unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment. Again, leaving this example aside, suppose there is someone who, in the space of an instant, presents countless Buddhas as well as sentient beings of innumerable worlds in the eastern direction, with various fine foods and drinks, fragrant flowers and raiment, banners, pennants, canopies, parasols, sanctuaries with beautiful chambers, jeweled curtains and enclosures of nets, lion seats with various adornments, as well as all kinds of exquisite jewels, reverently honoring them, bowing to them, and lauding them, humbly looking up to them, and continues thus unceasingly for countless eons, and also urges other sentient beings to make such offerings to the Buddhas, and after the Buddhas die, sets up a monument for each one. The monuments high and wide, made of all kinds of precious substances from countless worlds, variously decorated, with countless statues of Buddhas in each monument, with radiance illuminating countless worlds, continuing this work for countless eons, and suppose the person did the same in the south, west, and north, the four intermediate directions, the zenith and the nadir. Do you think this person's merit would be great? The King of Gods said, "Only a Buddha could know this person's merit. No one else could assess it." Child of Buddha, this person's merit, compared to the merit of the enlightening being's initial determination for enlightenment, does not amount to 100th part, 1,000th, 100,000th part, not even the smallest fraction. Again, setting this example aside, suppose there is a second person who can, in a single instant, perform all the acts of almsgiving performed by the first person in countless worlds, to the beings therein, for countless eons, and suppose this person went on like this, instant after instant, presenting innumerable kinds of offerings to countless Buddhas, as well as the sentient beings of innumerable worlds, for innumerable eons. And suppose that a third person, up to a 10th person, could each perform in an instant all the almsgiving performed by the preceding person, and did so instant after instant, presenting boundless, incomparably many, uncountable, unaccountably many, unthinkably many, immeasurably many, unspeakably many, unspeakably many offerings to infinite, untold Buddhas, as well as to all the sentient beings in as many worlds, for unspeakably many eons, and then, after the passing of each Buddha, built a monument for each one, high and wide, as previously described. This merit, too, would not amount to even the smallest fraction of the virtue of the enlightening being's initial determination for enlightenment. Why? Because enlightening beings do not set their minds on unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment just to make offerings to a certain number of Buddhas. They set their minds on unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment to make offerings to all the innumerable, unspeakably many past, present, and future Buddhas of the entire space of the whole cosmos in all directions. Having aroused this determination, they are able to know the first attainment of true awakening, as well as the final release of all Buddhas of the past, are able to believe in the roots of goodness of all Buddhas of the future, and are able to know the knowledge and wisdom of all Buddhas of the present. The virtues of those Buddhas, these enlightening beings can believe in, can accept, can cultivate, can attain, can know, can witness, and can perfect. They can be equal, of the same nature as the Buddhas. Why? Because these enlightening beings arouse their aspiration in order not to let the lineage of all enlightened ones die out. They arouse their aspiration in order to pervade all worlds. They arouse their determination in order to liberate the beings of all worlds. They arouse their aspiration in order to completely know the formation and disintegration of all worlds. They arouse their determination in order to completely know the defilement and purity of all beings. They arouse their minds in order to know the purity of the realms of desire, form, and formlessness in all worlds. They arouse their determination in order to completely know the inclinations, afflictions, and mental habits of all living beings. They arouse their aspiration in order to completely know the faculties and means of all beings. They arouse their determination in order to completely know the mental activities of all beings. They arouse their aspiration in order to know all beings' knowledge of past, present, and future. Because they have set their minds on enlightenment, they are always remembered by all the Buddhas of past, present, and future, and will attain the unsurpassed enlightenment of all Buddhas of all times. Then they will be given the sublime teachings of all Buddhas of all times, and will be actually and essentially equal to all Buddhas of all times. Having cultivated the methods of fostering the path used by all Buddhas of all times, consummated the powers and fearlessness of all Buddhas of all times, and adorned themselves with the unique qualities of all Buddhas of all times, they will thoroughly attain the knowledge and wisdom to explain the truth of all Buddhas of the cosmos. Why? Because by means of this determination, they will attain Buddhahood. Know that such a person is thereupon the same as the Buddhas of all times, thereupon equal in perspective to the Buddhas of all times, thereupon equal in virtue to the Buddhas of all times, and attains the true knowledge of the ultimate equality of one body and infinite bodies of the enlightened. As soon as one sets the mind on complete enlightenment, one is praised by all the Buddhas of all quarters, and can thereupon expound the teaching, edify and purify the beings of all worlds, and can thereupon shake all worlds, and can thereupon illumine all worlds, and can thereupon extinguish the pains of the states of misery in all worlds, and can thereupon beautify and purify all lands, and can thereupon manifest attainment of Buddhahood in all worlds, and can thereupon cause all living things to rejoice, and can thereupon enter into the essence of all reality realms, and can thereupon maintain the lineage of all enlightened ones, and can thereupon attain the light of wisdom of all Buddhas. This enlightening being who has just aspired to enlightenment does not apprehend anything in the past, present, or future, whether Buddhas, Buddha's teachings, enlightening beings, principles of enlightening beings, solitary awakened ones, principles of solitary awakened ones, listeners, principles of listeners, the world, worldly things, the transmundane things, sentient beings or norms of sentient beings. The enlightening being only seeks omniscience and has no mental attachment to anything. At that point, by the spiritual power of the Buddha, worlds as numerous as the atoms in 10,000 Buddha lands in each of the 10 directions, all quaked in 6 ways, rained celestial flowers, perfumes, incenses, garlands, robes, jewels, and ornaments, produced celestial music, and radiated celestial lights and sounds. Now in each of the 10 directions, beyond as many worlds as atoms in 10 Buddha lands, were as many Buddhas as atoms in 10,000 Buddha lands, all named truth wisdom. Each of them appeared bodily before the enlightening being truth wisdom, and said these words: Good, good truth wisdom, you are now able to expound this teaching. We Buddhas, as many in each of the 10 directions as atoms in 10,000 Buddha lands, also expound this teaching. All Buddhas teach in this way. As you expounded this teaching, there were as many enlightening beings as atoms in 10,000 Buddha lands who were inspired with the determination for enlightenment. We now give them all the prediction of enlightenment, that in the future, after 10 unspeakable numbers of boundless eons, they will alike attain Buddhahood in the same eon, and appearing in the world, will all be called pure mind Buddha. The worlds they live in will each be different. We will all protect and keep this teaching, so that all the enlightening beings of the future who have not heard it will be able to hear it. As in this world endurance, atop the Mount Sumerus of the 4 quarters, this teaching was spoken, to cause them to accept the teaching once they have heard it, so also was it spoken in all the countless worlds throughout the universe, to edify living beings. All those who expounded it were called truth wisdom. They spoke such a teaching by the spiritual power of the Buddhas, by the power of the Buddha's original vow, in order to reveal the Buddha's teaching, to illumine all with the light of knowledge, to expose the truth, to cause beings to realize the essence of things, to cause all congregations to rejoice, to reveal the causal basis of the Buddha's teaching, to realize the equality of all Buddhas, to comprehend the non-duality of the realm of reality. Then the enlightening being Truth Wisdom looked over all the congregations in all lands in the 10 directions of the entire realm of space, and because he desired to perfect the living beings, because he wanted to purify all actions, results, and consequences, because he wanted to reveal the realm of reality, because he wanted to extirpate the roots of defilement, because he wanted to increase great faith and resolution, because he wanted to cause all to know the faculties of infinite sentient beings, because he wanted to cause all to know the equality of past, present, and future phenomena, because he wanted to cause all to contemplate the realm of nirvana, and because he wanted to increase inherently pure roots of goodness, he spoke these verses by the power of Buddha. To benefit the world, enlightening beings make a great resolution, that resolution extending everywhere throughout the 10 directions. Living beings, lands, the phenomena of past, present, and future, enlightened as well as enlightening beings, supreme oceans, to the limits of space equal to the cosmos, and all the worlds there are therein. In accord with Buddha's teachings, they go to everyone. Arousing their minds this way, they never regress. They think of living beings with compassion, never abandoning them. They reject all that is harmful, benefiting all. Their light illumines the world, being as a refuge, guarded by the 10 powered inconceivably. They enter all lands in the 10 directions, manifesting all kinds of physical forms. In accord with Buddha's virtue and knowledge, boundless, they cultivate the appropriate causes without any attachment. Some lands face upwards, some sideways or inverted. Coarse, subtle, wide, and vast, there are innumerable kinds. Once enlightening beings have roused the supreme aspiration, they can travel to all of them unobstructed. Enlightening beings' supreme practices cannot be all told. All they cultivate diligently without dwelling anywhere. Seeing all Buddhas, they're always joyful, and enter everywhere into the ocean of profound truths. Pitying beings living in mundane dispositions, they cause them to clear away defilements, to be thoroughly pure, Succeeding to the lineage of Buddhas, they do not let it die out. They devastate the palace of demons, completely destroying them. Dwelling in the equanimity of the enlightened, they skillfully cultivate subtle techniques. Developing aspiration for the realm of Buddhahood, they are anointed by the Buddhas, their minds without attachment. Remembering to requite their debt to the most honorable human, their minds are incorruptible, like diamond, able to clearly comprehend the sphere of Buddha's action. They naturally cultivate and practice enlightening deeds. The different thoughts of the various realms of beings are infinite. Their acts, their results, and their minds are also not one. Everything down to their various different faculties and natures are all clearly seen once the great mind is developed. That mind is far-reaching, as vast as the cosmos, without reliance, unchanging like space, heading for Buddha knowledge without grasping anything. It clearly comprehends the realm of truth apart from discriminatory thought. Knowing the minds of living beings without the concept of beings, comprehending all things without the concept of things, though discriminating all, yet free from discrimination, it goes to all lands, billions and trillions, following, contemplating, able to enter all the wondrous troves of teachings of countless Buddhas, knowing all the faculties and behaviors of living beings. Those who have reached this point are like the Buddha, always in accord with the pure great vow, gladly supporting the enlightened without turning back, always pleasing to the sight of humans and celestials, always protected mindfully by the Buddhas. Their minds are pure, free from dependence. Though they contemplate the profound teaching, they do not cling, meditating thus for countless eons, without any attachments in the past, present, or future. Their minds are firm and sure, impossible to overcome. They proceed to Buddha's enlightenment without obstruction. Determined to seek the wondrous way, they get rid of infantile ignorance. Traversing the whole cosmos, they do not complain of weariness. They know the phenomena of speech and language are all null and void. Only entering into true thusness, they cut off different interpretations. Harmoniously observing all the spheres of the enlightened, they comprehend all frames of time, their minds without obstruction. When enlightening beings first develop the vastly great mind, they can go to all lands in the 10 directions. Aspects of truth beyond number or explanation, their light of knowledge illumines clearly. Liberating many with great compassion, utterly beyond compare, their kindness extends everywhere, like space. And yet they do not discriminate in regard to living beings. Thus, being pure, they roam through the world, giving solace and comfort to living beings everywhere. Everything they do is true and genuine. Always with a pure heart, they don't contradict themselves. They are always strengthened and protected by all the Buddhas. They remember everything that was in the past, and discern everything in the future. They enter all worlds in the 10 directions to liberate beings, causing them to be detached. Enlightening beings have the light of sublime knowledge, and understand causes and conditions beyond any doubt. They do away with all confusion and delusion, and in this way roam the reality realm. All the palaces of demons they smash, all the blinders of living beings they destroy. Free from discrimination, minds undisturbed, they understand well the realm of the enlightened. They have removed the webs of doubt of all time, and aroused faith in those who have realized thusness. By faith they've attained immutable knowledge, and because their knowledge is pure, their understanding is true. In order to allow living beings to attain emancipation and to benefit them universally throughout all time, they undergo long toils and hardships unflagging, calmly enduring even the pains of the hells. Replete with boundless virtue and wisdom, they know all the faculties and inclinations of beings. They see all, including their works and deeds, and teach them in accord with their tendencies. They understand all is empty and selfless, yet think kindly of beings, never abandoning them. With one subtle, sublime voice of great compassion, they enter all worlds to teach. Emanating great lights of various colors, they shine on all beings, removing the darkness. In the lights are enlightening beings sitting on lotus blossoms, bringing forth the pure teaching for all beings. In a single pore they manifest many lands, with great enlightening beings filling them all. The knowledge of the congregation is different for each, while all can understand the minds of living beings. To unspeakably many lands in the 10 directions, they can go in an instant to all of them, aiding beings, giving offerings to Buddhas. From the Buddhas they ask the profound truth. They think of the enlightened ones as parents, and perform enlightening practices to benefit sentient beings. With wisdom and flexible means they penetrate the treasury of truths, entering the profound realm of knowledge without any attachment. Meditating in accord with truth, they explain the reality realm for countless eons, without being able to exhaust it. Though their knowledge skillfully penetrates, it has no location. They are not tired or wearied, have no attachment to anything. Born in the house of the Buddhas of past, present, and future, they experience the subtle reality body of the enlightened ones, manifesting various forms for all living beings. Like magicians, there's nothing they can't make. Some manifest the beginning of practice of excellent action. Some manifest birth up to leaving home. Some manifest fulfilling enlightenment under a tree, and some show extinction for the benefit of beings. The rare truth in which enlightening beings abide is only the realm of Buddhas, not the 2 vehicles. They are rid of concepts of body, speech, and thought, but can manifest them variously, according to the occasion. The Buddha teachings attained by enlightening beings, sentient beings go crazy when thinking of. The knowledge of enlightening beings enters reality, their minds unhindered. Everywhere they manifest the independent powers of the enlightened. In this they have no compare in all the world. How much the more when their excellent practices are added. Though they have not yet completely fulfilled omniscience, they have already attained the independent power of the enlightened. Already they abide on the ultimate path of the one vehicle, and enter deeply into the subtle highest truth. They know beings well, and appropriate and inappropriate times. For beings' benefit they reveal spiritual powers. Multiplying their bodies, they fill all lands. Emanating pure light to remove the darkness of the world, like dragon kings producing great clouds, they shower wonderful rains, filling and refreshing all. They see sentient beings as like illusions and dreams, always revolving in circles from the force of their acts. With compassion and pity they rescue them all, explaining to them the uncreated, pure nature of things. The infinity of Buddha's powers is also like this. Like space, it has no bounds. In order to enable sentient beings to gain liberation, they diligently practice for eons untiring, Pondering in various ways upon wondrous virtues, they skillfully cultivate the unsurpassed foremost of works. Never giving up the transcendent practices, they concentrate on developing omniscience. With one body they manifest innumerable bodies, omnipresent throughout all worlds. Their minds pure, with no discrimination, such is their instantaneous, inconceivable power. They do not discriminate among worlds. They have no illusions about anything. While they contemplate the teachings, they do not grasp them. And though they are always rescuing beings, none are delivered. All worlds are only mental images. Therein are various distinctions. Knowing the realms of ideation are dangerous and deep, enlightening beings manifest spiritual powers to rescue and liberate. Like the powers of a magician are the spiritual metamorphoses of enlightening beings. Their bodies fill the cosmos and space, for all to see, according to their mentalities. Both distinctions of subject and object they have left behind. Whether defiled or pure, nothing do they grasp. Cognition of bondage or of liberation they entirely forget, only vowing to grant bliss to all sentient beings. All worlds being only the force of ideation, they enter them by knowledge with minds free from fear. Their contemplation of all things is also thus. Investigating their past, present, and future, they cannot be apprehended. Able to enter into the whole of the past, able to enter into the whole of the future, able to enter into all places in the present, they always observe diligently how nothing exists. According with the dispassionate state of nirvana, they abide in non-contention and non-reliance. Their minds, like ultimate reality, have no compare. They are turned wholly to enlightenment, never to regress. Cultivating supreme practice without backsliding or weakening, they rest on enlightenment, unwavering. Buddhas, enlightening beings, and the worlds throughout the cosmos, they all clearly understand. If you want to attain the supreme foremost of paths and be an omniscient sovereign of liberty, you should quickly develop the determination for enlightenment, forever end indulgence, and help sentient beings. Proceeding to enlightenment, mind pure, your virtues will be vast and great beyond telling. I am setting this forth for the benefit of beings. Those of intelligence should listen well. Infinite worlds are all atoms. In each atom are infinite lands. The Buddhas in each are infinite. Enlightening beings see all clearly without any grasping. They know living beings without having such a concept. They know spoken words with no idea of speech. Their minds are unhindered in any world. They comprehend all without attachments. Their minds are broad and vast as space. They comprehend all things in all times. They annihilate all doubt and confusion, and correctly perceive the Buddha's teachings without clinging. To infinite lands in the 10 directions they instantly go, their minds without attachment. Understanding the reasons for suffering in the world, they all dwell in the uncreated sphere of reality. To the assemblies of infinite Buddhas, they go to call on them. Always being leaders, they ask the Buddhas about the vows and practices cultivated by enlightening beings. Their minds always remember the Buddhas of the 10 directions, yet without depending on or grasping anything. They constantly urge living beings to plant roots of goodness, adorning their lands, making them pure. All sentient beings in all realms of existence, they observe with unobstructed eyes. Their habits, natures, faculties, and understandings, countless and boundless, all they clearly see. Aware of all defilement and purity, they cause them to cultivate themselves and enter the way. Measureless, countless meditation concentrations, enlightening beings can enter in a single instant. Their perceptions, knowledges, and objects therein, they all know thoroughly and attain mastery. Enlightening beings attaining this great knowledge immediately direct it to enlightenment unhindered. Because they want to help and benefit living beings, wherever they are, they expound the principles of great people. They know the long and short eons of the worlds, a month, a fortnight, a day, and a night. In each land are different, but equal in essence. Always diligently observing, they are not lax or indulgent, going to all worlds in the 10 directions, yet they do not cling to place or location. Adorning and purifying all lands with exception, yet they never produce the concept of purity. Sentient beings' rights and wrongs, the differences in their deeds and the consequences, they accordingly reflect upon, entering the Buddha's power and comprehending all of this. The various natures in all worlds, various causes of action and their realms of being, sharp faculties as well as the middling and inferior, all such things do they observe and examine. Various understandings, pure and impure, superior, inferior, and middling, all they clearly see. The acts of all beings and where they lead, the continuity of realms of being, all they can explain. Meditations, concentrations, liberations, trances, defiled and pure, their causes and origins each different. These, plus the differences of pain and pleasure of past lives, purely cultivating Buddha power, all they can see. Sentient beings' habitual delusions continue the various states of being. By cutting off these tendencies and states, they attain peace and dispassion. Various tainted states do not arise any more. All this and the seeds of those habits enlightening beings know. The afflictions of the enlightened are all extinguished. Their light of great knowledge illumines the world. Though enlightening beings have not yet attained Buddha's 10 powers, yet they do not have doubt. Enlightening beings in a single pore manifest the infinite lands of the 10 directions. Some are defiled, some are pure, made by various deeds, all do they comprehend. In a single atom, infinite lands with infinite Buddhas and their offspring. The lands are each distinct, not mixed up. As of one, all they clearly see. In one pore they see all the worlds, in the space of the 10 directions. There is not a single place where there is no Buddha. Thus are the Buddha lands all pure. In a pore they see Buddha lands, and also see all sentient beings. The 3 times and 6 dispositions are not the same. Day and night, month and hour, bondage and freedom. Thus do enlightening beings of great knowledge single-mindedly head for the sovereignty of truth. Meditating on the abode of the enlightened, they obtain boundless great joy. Enlightening beings multiply their bodies into countless billions to make offerings to all the enlightened ones. The manifestations of their spiritual powers are supreme, incomparable. They can abide in all the spheres of action of the Buddhas. They praise and look up to all the countless Buddhas and deeply savor the treasuries of all their teachings. Seeing the Buddhas, hearing their teachings, they diligently practice them, their hearts joyful as if they were drinking ambrosial elixir of immortality. having attained the supreme concentration of the enlightened, they delve into all truths and their knowledge grows. Their faith is unshakable as a great mountain, being a treasury of virtues for all living beings. Their compassion is great, extending to all living creatures. All they hope will soon develop universal knowledge, yet they are always without attachment or dependence. Shedding afflictions, they've attained freedom. Vast in knowledge with pity for sentient beings, they embrace all as the same as themselves. With awareness of emptiness, signlessness, and unreality, yet they act their minds unflagging. The virtues of enlightening beings' determination for enlightenment could not be exhaustively told even in 1 billion eons, because it produces all the enlightened ones and the bliss of the self-enlightened and Buddha's disciples. To give peace for countless eons to all the beings of the lands of the 10 directions, urging them to keep the 5 precepts and 10 virtues, the 4 meditations, 4 equipoises and such concentrations, and also giving them bliss for many eons, causing them to cut off delusions and become saints. Amasses virtue which may be immeasurable, but cannot compare to the virtue of the will for enlightenment. Also to cause millions to achieve individual awakening and attain the subtle path of non-contentious action does not amount to anything much at all, compared to the determination for enlightenment. If one could pass billions of lands in an instant, and did so for immeasurable eons, the number of these lands might be assessed, but the virtues of the will for enlightenment cannot be known. The number of eons, past, future, and present, is boundless, yet still might be known. But the virtue of rousing the mind to enlightenment cannot be measured by anyone. This is because the determination for enlightenment extends everywhere. Knowing all discernments that exist, comprehending past, present, and future in an instant, benefiting innumerable sentient beings, the desires, understandings, means, and mutual patterns of the sentient beings of the worlds of the 10 directions, as well as the bounds of space, might be measured. But the virtues of the aspirations for enlightenment cannot be assessed. Enlightening beings' aspiration is equal to the 10 directions. Their kindness universally nourishes all living beings, causing all to cultivate the virtues of Buddhahood. That's why their power has no bounds. Sentient beings' desires, understandings, inclinations, faculties, devices, and practices are all different. Enlightening beings know them all instantly, same as the mind of omniscience. The deluded actions of living beings continue through time without interruption, yet their bounds still might be known. But the virtues of will for enlightenment are inconceivable. Will for enlightenment can divorce afflictions of action and provide offerings to all the enlightened. Once habitual delusions are divorced, their continuity is broken, and liberation is attained for all time. If one gives offerings to boundless Buddhas in an instant, and also gives to countless sentient beings fragrant flowers and garlands, precious banners, canopies, and raiment, fine food, excellent seats, and places to walk around, various palaces all finely adorned, luminous, wonderful pearls, wish-fulfilling jewels, radiating light, and bring such offerings moment after moment, over countless eons beyond the power of speech. Though such a person's accumulation of merit would be great, it does not equal the magnitude of the virtue of aspiring to enlightenment. None of the various examples told can match the determination for enlightenment. Because the most honorable people of all times, have all been born from this aspiration. The will for enlightenment is unhindered, unlimited. No measure can be found for it. Vowing to fulfill omniscience, to forever deliver all beings, that aspiration is vast as space, producing virtues equal to the cosmos, their share of action extending everywhere, as though there were no difference, forever leaving all attachments, equal to the Buddhas, entering all gates of truth, able to travel to all lands, arriving at all spheres of knowledge, perfecting all virtues, able to relinquish everything, always consistent, purifying behavior, free from attachment, fulfilling unsurpassed virtues, always persevering without regression, entering deep concentration, always meditating, uniting with vastly great knowledge and wisdom. This is the supreme stage of enlightening beings, producing the path of all the universally good. All the enlightened ones of past, present, and future protect the initial aspiration, adorning it with spiritual powers and mystic transfiguration, with concentrations and spells. The living beings of the 10 directions are infinite, as are the worlds and space, but the infinity of the enlightenment aspiration surpasses these. Hence it can give birth to all Buddhas. The will for enlightenment is the basis of the 10 powers, as well as the 4 special knowledges and fearlessnesses. The same is true of the 18 unique qualities. All of them are attained from the aspiration for enlightenment. The Buddha's physically adorned bodies, as well as their equal body of reality, their knowledge, wisdom, and non-attachment worthy of honor, all can exist because of the determination for enlightenment. All the vehicles of individual illuminates and Buddhist disciples, the pleasures of the meditation states of the realm of form, as well as the trances of the formless realm, all have the will for enlightenment as their basis. The free pleasures of humans and gods, as well as the various pleasures of the other states of being, and the pleasures of progress, concentration, religious faculties and powers, and so on, all depend on the first aspiration to enlightenment. Based on the production of this far-reaching determination, can one practice the 6 ways of transcendence, urging sentient beings to carry out right practice, experiencing peace and happiness in the 3 realms, abiding in the Buddha's unhindered true knowledge, revealing all the wonderful actions there are, able to cause countless living beings to cut off deluded actions and turn to nirvana, making vows of boundless virtues to give happiness to all living beings, carrying out these vows forever and ever, always working so as to liberate beings, the infinite great vows inconceivable, vowing to purify all living beings, though empty, signless, wishless, without reliance, by the power of will, enlightening beings can reveal them. Understanding the inherent nature of things is like space, that all are quiescent, all equal. The gates of the teaching, countless, unspeakable, they expound to beings without attachment. All enlightened ones of the worlds of the 10 directions, all praise the first aspiration for enlightenment. This inspired mind is adorned by infinite virtues, and can arrive at the other shore, same as the Buddhas. Were those virtues to be expounded for as many eons as there are living beings, they could not be all told, because this mind dwells in the vast house of the enlightened. Nothing of the world can compare it or explain it. If you want to know all the truths of the Buddhas, you should quickly develop the determination for enlightenment. This determination is the most excellent of virtues. assuring attainment of the unhindered knowledge of the enlightened. The mental activities of living beings might be counted, and so might the number of atoms in a land. The extent of space might be assessed, but the virtues of the will for enlightenment cannot be measured. It produces all the Buddhas of all times, and perfects happiness in all worlds, increases all excellent virtues, extirpates all confusion, reveals all wondrous realms, eliminates all obstacles, develops all pure lands, produces all enlightened knowledge. If you want to see all the Buddhas of the 10 directions, and want to disperse from the inexhaustible treasury of virtue, if you want to extinguish the afflictions of beings, quickly arouse the will for enlightenment.